Hello everyone and welcome along to today's Liverpool.com morning stream. I'm Matt Addison. Ben Bokchak is here alongside me. We're going to talk a little bit about Liverpool's 3-2 defeat in Toulouse last night. Do let us know if you've got any questions as we go along. We'll try and get to a few of those. Excuse me. It wasn't the best result, was it, Ben, last night for Liverpool? Not a good performance either. We'll get into a couple of individuals first, but I suppose the most important thing for Liverpool really is that they will still get through. It's just a little bit delayed. They'll probably still top the group as well. But what did you make of the performance? Was it one that you just forget about quickly, or is there maybe a little bit of a concern building at Liverpool now, do you think?
I think it was deserved. That's the most worrying aspect from Liverpool's point of view. This is a side who are 14th in League One, so not the greatest of teams, and they dominated Liverpool. And even in the second half, when the big guns came in, they were still the better side. Liverpool will feel they were hard done by what happened in terms of the VAR decision. I tend to think people have controversial opinions about VAR. For me, I think it's about how you apply it, and I think if you apply it in the right way, it can still be a powerful tool for referees. I think people tend to forget what it was like before VAR, because there was even more controversial decisions happening. The most notable ones, the Thierry Henry goal, Luis Garcia, we still don't know whether that crossed the line. And obviously, I think just, I just hate to blame the defeat on the McAllister decision. You can have your opinion about that, but I think overall, as Klopp said, Toulouse deserved to win.
In terms of that VAR decision, then we'll just quickly touch upon it in terms of what you thought of it. I have to say, I thought it was going back quite a long way, but it probably is handball. It helps him control the ball. Let's be honest, there's much more controversial ones than this. I think I don't really have a massive issue with it being ruled out. And of course, as you say, I mean, even if the goal had stood, it would have been quite nice for Jarell Quansah to have scored that goal, and it would have been important to him. But ultimately, a point wouldn't really have changed anything for Liverpool anyway. So it's controversial to an extent, but for me, there is an argument that the referee got that one right in the end.
Yeah, I think he got it right, to be honest. Taking off my Liverpool bias, I think it was the right decision. I think it was a handball, and had it happened the other way, we'd probably be complaining, and Liverpool fans would be complaining on social media about it, and we'd feel hard done by. So I think it's just one of those decisions that you just got to take on the chin and move on. It's a lot easier to take than the VAR decision against Tottenham, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those that isn't really going to make a huge amount of difference for Liverpool. I think they will comfortably get through. They'll probably end up confirming the place at the top of the group in the next match in, I think, 2 or 3 weeks' time against Lask, which is at Anfield. So you'd fancy them to be able to win in that one and get themselves through then. But let's talk a little bit more about the performance in general. It did remind me a little bit of the game against Luton, in that there were individuals who maybe didn't play particularly well. It's another game as well where Liverpool away from home haven't really been able to have that control. I think probably the biggest worry for me is that the midfield again didn't seem really able to win those challenges. And I think Wataru Endo is probably a player that you would look at and think, if Liverpool need to win more challenges, he's a player that you'd put in. But it just wasn't his half of football. I think he was probably slightly fortunate not to have been sent off. I don't think he won any of his duels on the night. There was a couple of other players as well that didn't really compete really in the middle of the pitch. That's a bit of a concern, I think, for me. Away from home, where you can't necessarily dominate games, it's got to be a worry, I think, for Jurgen Klopp. And to be fair, he did mention it as well in his post-match press conference. But that has to be a bit of a concern, doesn't it? That Liverpool keep being out-battled almost and out-fought in the middle of the pitch.
Yeah, I think it's more so a systematic problem than an individual problem. I think it's illustrated by the fact that it's not just Endo who struggles in this situation, McAllister as well. And when the rest of the midfielders came on, they weren't really winning their duels either. It was the same against Luton, and I think that's something that Liverpool have to be wary of. Obviously, Klopp has been speaking about, wanting to be more direct this season. That means the two number 8s are pushed further forward into almost the attack when you're pressing, and in quick transitions, if the opposition is able to play out from the back effectively, then you leave the holding midfielder very exposed. Now, there is an argument, if you have a faster holding midfielder, Endo and McAllister, unfortunately, are not the fastest players. If you have a faster one, maybe he might be able to solve those problems, and you have a proper destroyer in there. But I'm kind of skeptical whether that's going to be like a magical quick fix. I think Klopp needs to tweak the system. I think we had similar problems last season, when Fabinho was playing and Fabinho struggled in the same way. And I think it's just something that Klopp and obviously Pep Linders and the rest of the coaching staff need to look at and assess and see how those kind of how Liverpool can defend against those quick transitions more effectively.
Have you any ideas on what Liverpool could do? I mean, I imagine Trent moving inside and being in that position is probably one of the things they thought might help, but it has to a certain extent, but maybe more in possession than out of possession. I mean, as I said before, I think Endo would be the obvious one that if Liverpool were struggling without him to do that, you'd say, well, just put him in and he'd be able to do that, but he hasn't fixed it. I suppose it doesn't help that Curtis Jones and Ryan Gravenberch weren't there yesterday, but I don't know, what do you think might be the fix? Is it a formation thing? Is it a personnel thing? What is the answer, do you think, for Liverpool?
Well, I think during the start of the season, it was working well when, you had two really energetic midfielders in there, like the likes of Jones and Szoboszlai, who can win those pressures high up the field and regain possession. And I think we saw the return of the old Liverpool. So when the press works, it works really well. You just need the right kind of profile in there. You need speed in the midfield. Obviously, some of the profiles in midfield that Liverpool have, Elliott, I really like him as a player. And in all fairness to him, he did win the most duels yesterday for Liverpool. But I think he lacks a bit of speed at times. And I think, when you lose that quick counter-attacking press, then it is a bit easier for the opposition. So obviously you could, but then you can't, you shouldn't expect Gravenberch and Jones and Szoboszlai to play all the games. So it's just going to happen. It's one of those inevitable things. I think one of the ways you can fix it is, like you mentioned, maybe use Trent in a double pivot, go with a back three. You could use Endo and McAllister in a double pivot. I think things will change when Bajcetic will finally return. And I think he's one of those players who maybe has a bit more speed on him. He's able to cover a bit more ground than McAllister and Endo, and I think maybe then things could change as well. But I think it's not an easy fix. It's not a quick fix. That's why I said I don't think bringing a destroyer, a number 6 type of player is going to resolve all of Liverpool's problems. I think it's something that Liverpool need to work on the training field, maybe work on getting Elliott and the other midfielders who might struggle in terms of speed, getting their top speed a bit higher, and maybe teaching them to press more effectively. I mean, I'm sure they're already doing that now, but I think it's just something that needs to be honed in and really concentrated on.
Yeah, we have seen it at certain points this season. I think Liverpool's probably peak performance in terms of that was against Aston Villa at Anfield. Obviously, again, that's a lot easier to do that with a first-choice, full-strength team. You're at home, all the rest of it. But if Liverpool can sort of dominate those games in the same way away from home, then maybe that'll be a little bit different in terms of the outcome. But let's just move quickly on to another position as well, which was a particular problem at left-back yesterday. Obviously, Kostas Tsimikas is playing a lot more than what he would usually do with Andy Robertson being out injured. Joe Gomez had to go over there after his error and poor first half from him yesterday. It wasn't the greatest of performances from him. I wasn't massively convinced by Joe Gomez either. That feels like a bit of a problem position as well. We know Robertson isn't going to be back for a little while yet. So I suppose the big game with Manchester City is not far away. You'd probably be a little bit worried whoever played in that role against them. But what did you make of Tsimikas yesterday, and what do you make of the sort of left-back pecking order without Robertson as it stands?
Yeah, I think it's a tough choice. I would probably prefer Gomez because of his defensive ability against Man City. I think Liverpool look better when it's Gomez, and I think he was telling that Klopp, I think against Luton, went with Gomez at left back. I think clearly he sort of prefers him in the Premier League games as well. I just think, that opens up the possibility of Liverpool going into a back three, Trent moving into the middle, which we saw a little bit of against Luton. But obviously, against Luton, the problem was that when Trent went into the middle, the pitch, he made the pitch so compact, Liverpool didn't really have any width. So obviously it's based on who you play, which opponents you're up against, and I think City, you probably don't need as much width. Then I don't expect them to park the bus in the way Luton did. So I think it will be all right if Gomez goes left back and you play a back three. Trent comes into the middle. You have a double pivot. Obviously, McAllister should be available for that game, so probably McAllister, Trent double pivot, and then you press in the same way with Szoboszlai or Gravenberch and Jones, and you try and catch out City playing out from the back, and I think that can be an effective way to go about it. Obviously, you have with the back three, you have the protection there. I think it helps that Van Dijk is sort of getting back to his best as well. So that will be a help, and I'm still optimistic against the big teams. I think it's just when you come up against the Luton that you have to find more creative ideas to break them down and prevent them from counter pressing you and catching you out on the break.
Yeah, I was thinking about that yesterday. I'd almost rather play Manchester City away from home next rather than, a Sheffield United or a team like that where Liverpool would have to come up against the same things again. But we shall see what happens. Of course, we'll have all of the analysis, or even more analysis, I should say, of the Toulouse game throughout today. We'll be building up to the Brentford game at Anfield on Sunday as well. So do check out the website for all of that. The Liverpool Echo as well. The Blood Red podcast will be a little bit later on this afternoon too. So do keep watching and reading all of our stuff across all of our channels. Thank you very much for watching along this morning, and from myself and Ben Botchat, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. We'll catch you next time.